skin so gorgeous. We thank the life gorgeous. Thank the life gorgeous. I love the life gorgeous. Its torso is so tight.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Life Gorgeous. My name is Mr. Craig Kilborn. This is where I share my magical life in hopes of improving your life. Very special guest today. One of my favorites. He's a nice guy. He's a talented guy. He's also a busy guy, but he squeezes me in during the holidays. Bobby Bones, ladies and gentlemen.
There was no squeeze. It was more like I prioritize things that I want to do with people I want to do them with. I was at therapy today for I don't know, feels like 10 hours, but it's 50 minutes. And, that was actually part of what we were talking about. My growth in not saying yes to every single thing anymore, but prioritizing the things I really want to do. And this is one of those things. So thanks for having me again.
Well, thank you for doing it. I emailed you last week and you were prompt and you said I know how busy you are. You've got the Bobby Bones show. I assume that's 5 days a week, correct?
Yes, that show is 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I do a countdown on the weekends, but that show is recorded. I do a sports show that airs that's twice a week. And then like a long form interview podcast that is once a week as far in the audio space.
Wow. And so when I emailed you, you said we can do Monday. This will air a week from tomorrow, Tuesday of next week. And you said, I got a couple, you're going to do stand-up down in Florida this week, correct?
Yeah. So I leave Wednesday. I shoot a video sports show called Too Much Access where, it was just something that I thought, what can I do that would be so much fun that I can turn into something entertaining? And so we went to 10, 11, Division I football programs. We also went to the Carolina Panthers, rest in peace, Frank Reich. And we did BYU volleyball. So we've done like 12 or 13 episodes. And the whole premise of the show was I just wanted to go and live out childhood dreams. So I go and hang out with the head coaches and put on pads and run drills. And so that part of it's funny, but then I'm a big sports guy too. So then we do mix it up with sports as well. So, but it's been the most fun. And I'm going to Arkansas on Wednesday and Wichita State on Thursday. And then have a charity stand-up gig on Friday.
Wow. I mean, 50, 60 hours a week, something. You don't count them or do you?
I don't count them. My wife might, but I don't. I'll do the radio show too all those days. But what's great about technology is that you can do it anywhere. It used to not be that way. So, I can go set up and flip on and do my 5-hour show.
So the radio show is kind of the foundation. You have, you play trivia on there, don't you? Like, I think it's called Simple Trivia or what is it called?
Love games. I love to compete, but yeah, we do this game called Easy Trivia, which oddly is our highest testing game. Everything's researched at this point. You've been through that.
Yeah.
And, so I wanted to make a game that people could play along with. And I was like, let's not do anything that people feel like they can't be completely comfortable with and think they're way smarter than us.
Right.
And so we started this easy trivia and we turned it into super easy trivia, made it easier. And we get a celebrity on and it's like a whole Brady Bunch board of folks. Right. And it's kind of last man standing. It's kind of like Survivor Series. Like Royal Rumble is what it is of trivia.
I used to do 5 questions and I got in trouble with a couple celebrities where the writers go, "Oh, they'll know that. They'll know that. They'll know it's a continent, not a country. They'll know it's this." And we embarrassed some big names where they were like, "I'm never playing that again if I come on the show." And you got to be careful. So you're going the smart way. Make it easy. Make it easier on these people. How's Amy?
Amy's great. For those that aren't familiar, which I assume most aren't, Amy is my co-host, but we've been like so great friends for 15, 16 years. I met her at a Culver's restaurant and she didn't have any radio experience. And so she came on the show and, she's single. She just went through the big D.
Yeah.
And, I think that's pretty dark for her for a little bit, but man, now she is healthy as could be and just like happy. It's great to see. So, it's kind of weird. We hit 40 in the last couple years and it's kind of like,
me too.
40's weird because this is like the last half, so it's the last half.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you want to start over and do it right and make sure you're happy in the last half. I mean, I got married at 40 for the first time. So, I feel like she's in a good place. And if she's in a good place, I'm in a good place.
She seems, she's very pretty. She has a really nice personality. How would you describe her for people who haven't seen Amy?
I would say that Amy is a very kind person. She has 2 adopted children. She was going on a mission trip a long time ago, and they were trying to adopt domestically, and they kept moving. And when you move, your paperwork kind of starts over. And so she was going, and maybe not so much a mission trip, but kind of a trip to help. And she went to Haiti, and she was there, and she was at an orphanage, and she was like, "Holy cow! This one kid, I think that this is the kid that I want to, be the parent of." And then met another kid there. And so those 2 kids are here in America now and thriving. She's just very much a giver.
Yes. I know givers. I know people like that. I would never say I'm a taker because I'm not, but I'm giving back with the Instagram and the podcast. Yeah. So you're very hardworking. You're very popular. I did want to say you brought up therapy. And I wanted to ask a couple of questions. You don't have to answer any of them, but you seem to be one of those guys that'll kind of answer everything because you're not afraid of anything. Craigers has not gone to therapy. I do something called self-counsel, which I do a slight joke about, but I say self-counsel, where I sit in my club chair and I discipline myself and I say, don't do this, keep your mouth shut, don't drink as much, exercise more, blah, 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 blah. But I have some friends that go to therapy. So I wanted to ask you, because I asked them and I say, now I have some words of advice for you, friend, but if you don't want to hear them, I won't say them. But does the therapist say this, don't do this, don't let them get to you? My friend will say, well, they just say, let's reframe your view of it. So what do they do in therapy? Do they say, Bobby, stop? They don't say, Bobby, stop that, or don't worry about that. What do they do? And I know this is a loaded question. The other thing I wanted you to know is my friends who have therapists have told me some therapists aren't very good and some are really good. So you must assume, you must think your therapist is pretty good, right?
I only think that because I've been to some bad ones too. Okay. It's kind of like dating.
Yeah.
If you don't match up,
right?
Meaning with personalities a little bit, but mostly like principles even. Everybody's different. So for me, I didn't know what therapy was. Growing up watching TV, people would go to the shrink, the old crazy house. And so that was all I knew. And I remember when I was about 24, 25 years old, it was covered in my insurance. And I thought this will be a hilarious bit. I'll go to therapy and I'll tell them that I'm dreaming. And when I sleep, I have dreams of having 3 penises or something like that. I wanted to come up with something really weird to see what the therapist would say back. And I went fully with the mindset of I'm going to turn this into content for the show. And I got in there and I found somebody for the first time in my life that did not have a bias anyway. They didn't have to live with me. They didn't have to deal with me professionally or personally. And they were trained. And so it was that 3 penis thing went away pretty quickly. And I
went down to 2 penises.
It was a penis and 2 scrotums at that point. And so I slowly worked back. And I remember going, hey, I might can actually use some of this, to help me. And what it does for me is it kind of gives me tools for when I spiral. Like I have pretty crazy, there are people with it worse, but for me, I deal with a kind of OCD, a little bit of control freak, I like to black everything out. I also have OCD about locks. But it stems from not only control, but I got jumped at work and I had a gun held to my head outside of an event.
Oh, wow.
Just stuff, numbers game, right? So a lot of this stuff happened and I would go to therapy and be like, I can't sleep at night. I'm having all these crazy nightmares. So I go now and it's when I start to spiral, mostly it's the tools that I can kind of dig myself out with a little bit more than anything fixing me.
Yeah.
I think we're all warped and weird based on the positions that we've grown up in and the people we've been around. And there is no fixing because I don't think any of us are really that effed up, but we all are a little off. And for me, I just need to realize when I'm starting to get way off the tracks.
Right.
So that's what it does for me.
Yeah. So just for the listeners and viewers, Bobby had been on the show before and we went over his childhood, which was challenging to say the least. But I do know my friends who go to therapy, It is helpful, and it sounds like it's definitely helpful to you. Now, wait a second. You said OCD on locks. You mean make sure the door's locked? Is that what you're saying?
Every door, and not just the doors outside. Doors, every lock, every shelf, everything has to be right on. Right. Again, there are people with worse ones.
Sure.
And I think a lot of mine stems from security issues. So yeah. And when I start to feel like someone's outside, my problem is that when I have nightmares, I have dreams that someone's coming to kill me, but they are coming to kill me in the exact spot that I'm in at that moment while I'm sleeping. So I wake up and I can't tell if it's a freaking dream or real life. Right. So I have to get up and run my hands on the walls just to be like, I'm awake, I'm alive. So it's those type things. But that is kind of why I really dug in. It helps me in other ways now too. Right. But that to me has been great as far as equipping me with if it gets real bad.
That's interesting. So I have so I don't like flying, and I don't want to die in a car crash, a plane crash, or a car crash. I want to die, when I'm 90 in my sleep watching Turner Classic Movies. I just want to, be napping. I want it to be peaceful. However, home invasion is something that's never happened to me, but you're talking a little bit about that, and that would be very, very disturbing. So I can understand that. The other thing, I said this to a guest the other day named Maggie Lawson. She's an actress. She used to be on a show called Psych, and she hadn't heard of this. Tell me if you've heard of this. When we're dreaming and we're in trouble, as if I'm going to die in my dream, if I don't wake up or escape, and I escape in my dreams by flying away, Craigers can fly. I fly away from trouble. If we don't, we might have a heart attack and actually die in our sleep, is what I've heard. Is that true? Haven't you heard that?
That's one of those. It's like if you chew bubble gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. So I asked now I go to a psychiatrist. I went to a therapist and then a psychologist. Now I go to a psychiatrist, and I asked them that. I was like, if I die in my sleep, am I dead? And he was like, most people don't die in their sleep because
in their dreams. You mean in their dreams?
Yeah. Dreams. Yes. While I'm sleeping, if I'm dreaming, that their heart rate gets up so much during that situation that it wakes them up for the most part, which is why people don't actually hit the ground. But if you do hit the ground falling off a bridge, you don't die in real life.
Right.
I've learned. But I've never had that happen. I usually wake up because my heart rate is just because I feel like someone's coming in to murder me.
Did you also said, because I heard you say a number of things, so these are called follow-ups. This is what a young broadcaster does. You were jumped and a second time held at gunpoint. Is that true?
I was going into work. The morning show hours are pretty demanding as far as waking up. It sucks. I still hate waking up in the morning. There's never been a single morning at 3 o'clock, 3:30, whenever the alarm goes off, where I wake up and it's like full Oklahoma musical. Oh, what a beautiful morning. That's never happened in my entire life. I just get better at faking it until I get to the point where I feel pretty good, which is usually about 9 a.m. And so I would get into work at 3:15, 3:20, 3:30. And I got into work one day, and I remember I was in flip-flops. And you call them flip-flops? You call them thongs? What do you call them over there?
I call them flip-flops, yes.
Okay. So I'm in flip-flops, and I'm walking up the hill. I'm always the first person in the building, and I'm by myself, and someone yells, "Hey, Bones!" And I turn around thinking it's one of my crew members who got there early, or maybe a fan, and it's a dude with a knife. Ooh. And he starts running after me. And why I remember the flip-flops is I flicked them off my feet so fast, I still got a little gas in the tank, even right now. Like it's still there a little bit where I can go. And so I go, and I'm thinking this dude just wants to rob me. So I have a computer around my neck. I chunk the computer. He does not stop for the computer, which confuses the crap out of me. And I'm like, I thought he was going to rob me. Yeah. And I had to make a choice. And so I jumped over a brick wall, and on the other side of the brick wall, there was a big fall. It went down further. And I remember I tore my knee up pretty bad. A car happened to pull up. He ran away. The weird thing was, my computer, whoever he took my computer on the way out, but it was turned over like 2 days later. Somebody found it in a bush. And so he didn't want the computer. And we watched the surveillance video, and he waited for me and tracked me. Didn't know I had the wheels though. He didn't know I was still going. He didn't know I was still stretching in the morning. Oh, wow. That I was still doing my sprint.
Speedster, the speedster.
Yeah. So I still had him. But the cops came up. I still did my show.
that guy never got caught, right? They couldn't track him down.
So this is what happened. And this was the scary thing. Is one morning, it was still dark outside. It's like 6:30 in the morning. So one of those, I don't know which one of those daylight savings times that is, but it was still dark. And the police come up outside this big window outside the studio. And they have their light and they shine it on me. And I'm like, what's up? And so I hit a commercial or something. I go out. They say, hey, we think we have the guy. We need you to come identify him. I'm not, nope, no chance. I'm not going to. I've seen too many of those cop shows where you're in that room and everybody's on the wall and the lights come on and they see you. I'm not doing that. And they're like, well, we're going to have to let him go then. I said, well, how are we going to know that he doesn't see me? So they put me in the cop car in the back of it. They took a spotlight, put it right in his face where he could see nothing because of the spotlight and drove me by him very slowly. And I recognized him from the neck tattoo because he had a mask on.
Right.
And yeah, if you're ever going to rob somebody and you have a body tattaoo that is wildly obvious, you got to cover that up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
so that was, and then, I got, I had a gun held to my head outside a radio event once and got pistol whipped.
Now that's the one that scares me. Thank God it's never happened, because if someone does that, I can't help but just pushing it away, which is going to exacerbate the situation. I don't want it holding there. Just push it away, put it near my stomach. I don't know. But what did you do?
Nothing cool. I always thought I would do one of those Chuck Norris, like, turn the gun around on him.
Yeah.
So, and I had like a Pontiac Sunfire, like 180,000 miles. And like, I remember, and I had a girl with me at the time, and we were both sitting in the car, and there is like an ATM right beside my radio event. And so I'm like, I want to pull up to the ATM and get some money. Right before I get up to it, somebody taps on my window. I roll the window down. He goes, how much money you got now? Something like that. And I go, what? And then boom, gun right to my head.
Oh boy.
I didn't freak out. It was so surreal.
Right.
I'm like, when Parker Lewis Can't Lose, or like, where it's like timeout. Zach Morris, Saved by the Bell. It's like timeout. There's a gun at my head. It felt like the world was slowing down. And so I said, I don't have much money, man. Don't you see the kind of car I'm driving? Like, I still was kind of witty.
Yeah.
And he was like, I know you got something. And he pistol whipped me. I remember he went whack. I didn't feel a thing.
On what? On your face or your body?
On my head. Yeah. My head.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Because I'm still sitting in the car.
Yeah.
And so I take my wallet and I hand it to the girl that's next to me, who was just a friend. And she starts to put it under her seat. And on her side, pap, 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 his buddy with a gun comes up and says, give me that. And so she has to give him, and I'm thinking to myself, should I just drive off? But there was an embankment in front of me. And so I was like, man, I don't have any money. And he was like, I need you to go up to the ATM and take out your money. Anything you have in there. The weird thing was I could not remember my PIN. I never remembered it after that, ever. So I needed that PIN too. I could not remember it.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, he was like, why are you effing with me? And I said, dude, I swear to you, I would give you every bit of money I have because I don't want to die and I don't have much money.
Right.
And so he hit me again with the gun and they took off. So got pretty fortunate there that,
that's years ago, right? That was years ago.
Yeah, that was years ago. That's before I moved here.
Oh my gosh. I feel for you, man. I feel for you. What a renegade. You jumped off a roof when you were a kid. I mean, you just fell off the roof.
Yeah, it's a slight difference, but yes.
Okay. We're pushed off a roof. No. Fascinating. On your couple more questions. These are kind of like, I don't know. They're questions that are, I wouldn't say they're negative. It's just, I'm asking you how you handle certain situations. So in your live performances, do you ever have hecklers or not? Your stand-up?
So we were shooting. It's a weird dynamic because I'll do theaters, a couple thousand people, which is very nice. And I didn't come up in the way of a traditional stand-up comic. I started in a musical comedy duo, which I'm still in, which is pretty cool. We're doing an NIL show on Wednesday for Arkansas. We're just going to do a show and give all the money to players. It's the greatest thing ever. And so I started this musical duo and I was like, I really think I should do some stand-up because eventually, like my goal, it's not anymore because the kind of the climate, the culture has changed. But my goal was always to do what you did.
Right.
Because, and that's why I always looked up so much to what you did and how you did it and your path. And now that's really not a thing as much where you don't have to be on at 10:30 or 11:30. Just create cool content and eyeballs will get to you.
Right.
And so I thought I need to get better at doing stand-up. I need to get better at writing. And so I got very fortunate. I didn't do small clubs. I didn't grind it out that way. And so, but now, I tour and I do a couple thousand a night, and it's pretty cool, pretty lucrative. I'm moderately, I'm okay. I'm not Shane Gillis, who's awesome, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
And so, I work completely clean. And so sometimes there will be love hecklers. They're just as annoying as mean hecklers.
Okay, right. We love you, Bobby.
Yes, like I'm in the middle of a joke.
Fall
I'm in the middle
off
of a
the
story.
roof, Bobby.
They're like, dude, we love you so much. And I'm like, you're killing my cadence, man. Like, I got to tell this joke this certain way. So there are hecklers in that way. Now, we were shooting a special in Virginia Beach about 3 weeks ago. And what happens is somebody yells when it's quiet. And when somebody's doing stand-up, don't talk. Laugh whenever something's funny.
Right.
But don't talk, because nobody in the whole either room or theater paid to see you. They paid to see the person that's up there telling jokes.
Right.
And so we have cameras everywhere. And this woman's constantly just yapping, but not in a mean way. She's just like going, yeah, I knew that. Oh, that's hilarious. Just, yeah. And I could feel everybody getting irritated, and I'm getting irritated. I'm trying to shoot a special, and this lady won't shut up. This other lady gets up, walks up, and punches her in the face. I see it all happen. And then it turns into like a 2-person woman brawl. And so I'm doing my show, and I'm going, in my head, I'm like, what do I do? Do I keep going and just fight through it? Or do I stop and reset? So I go, all right, security, please remove them. And then I just want to know what happened. So I brought people up on the stage that were sitting there next to them and totally got the tea and set them down, got the audience back. It took a second, and then we went to it. So it's love heckling, but I would say it's still as annoying.
Right. Wow. So I don't understand, not to try to fully understand your schedule of sleep and everything, because I couldn't wake up early. I used to say I could never do like a morning show, because even though I'm a morning person, I got to sleep until 5 or 6. I go to bed at 9. I go to bed early. But if you're doing stand-up in Florida and then you come back, how many hours of sleep are you getting if you got to get up at 3? And how do you do this?
So I usually only tour on the weekends, which helps. It does reset my schedule a bit, which is hard to get back to normal. It's like all summer. Your school's out. You're like, summer rules. In the first couple of days of school, you're just exhausted. You've fallen asleep in like third period. That's what I am every Monday and Tuesday of every week. I'm like back to school the first day. And so it's tough, but yeah, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, most mornings.
Coffee?
No, I hate coffee. Okay. There's something called super coffee now, which is, it's kind of coffee. It's super clean, no sugar. And I'll do that, but I just don't like the taste of coffee. But that I like pumpkin pie. I like whipped cream. If I need that, I need you to really baby it up for me. So no coffee, no real caffeine. I just struggle. I struggle all morning until I get to work. And then I'm at work in the building probably until noon. So I'm probably there 4:30 to noon. I'll come home and I have a studio here, which we'll do one of the podcasts. If it's a sports show or if it's my interview show, we'll do that. I'll work out at 3, eat lunch. So I'm pretty up until 3 o'clock, pretty busy. And then my wife tells me, I had no idea this was a thing. My wife tells me that we have to spend time together.
Oh boy.
I know.
Yeah.
And I like it. I just didn't know that was something that I needed to go, this is important, because it's very important. And so I try to spend a couple hours with her, and then I start working on the next day's show, or I start writing, or, it's one of the many projects that I'm in the middle of that I do because I have no security and I don't believe in myself. So I keep working.
Yeah. Well, that's driven a lot of people to success. So there's nothing wrong with that.
And therapy. Yes.
Yeah. How many hours of sleep do you get?
I used to wear that as a badge of honor. I'd be like, I get 4 hours of sleep. And I really have tried to be more healthy about it. I've actually never talked about this. I'm
pulling it out.
You know what? Because I just love you so much. And I've not talked about this on my show ever. About 6 years ago, I woke up one morning and I couldn't read. And not like after school special, I can't read. Right. Like I can normally read and I couldn't read. And so I leaned on Amy and I said, hey, I need you to get me through this. And she was like, what's wrong? I said, I blamed it on my vision because I have terrible vision. I was like, I can't see. So she helped me, went to a doctor, and they said, hey, you had a seizure in your sleep. Ooh. We don't know if it'll ever happen again, whatever. So I move on with life. About a year and a half later, I wake up again. I can't read. I couldn't identify the yellow curvy thing AKA a banana.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't find the word.
Wow.
So it happens again. And I remember going on my show and I'm like, I have intense brain fog where I couldn't remember people's names. I couldn't identify easy objects. But I continued to work because my contract was coming up. I didn't want them to know that I was struggling with whatever my brain was doing. So just kept on working. So right before I went off to do Dancing with the Stars, which I ended up doing and winning, who knows? I think I won. Yeah.
Winner.
So
we covered it. He won, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. I remember really struggling with remembering like the dance steps. Now, I couldn't dance anyway, but I remember struggling with like the memorization. And I was like, this can't be that hard for a smash cut. I'm with my girlfriend, fiance at the time, before she's my wife. And she's like, hey, that ain't normal. I'm like, what do you mean? Because I would describe to her. I didn't think much of it because I got through it. We called a neurologist. They recommended another neurologist. I got in and did all these scans. I had 3 small strokes. I had 3 blood clots in my brain at different times.
Man.
From lack of sleep. Lack of sleep and stress. And there was white matter in 3 different spots. Yeah. That got scary for me because I can't touch that. Like if I got a cut or something, I can lick it.
Yeah.
But these little ischemias, this blood clotting in the brain, which is like a small stroke, like it kept me from like functioning normal for 5, 6, 8, 10 days at a time. There are full parts of my memory that I don't have that are like 3 and 4 months at a time. So because of that health situation, I do try to get 5 or 6 hours minimally now. And I really prioritize that. And then on the weekends, I really do try to crush and try to get 7 or 8.
I always used to need 8. I might get 7 or 7.5, man. But
I can do 11 if I have time.
Good for you.
My natural body clock. It's funny you're a morning person. My body clock would have me go to bed at 4 a.m. and wake up at 2 p.m. Like I have the exact opposite schedule of what my body actually should do.
Yeah, you have to. I tell people, well, this is more of a drinking thing. Don't chase the night, but you got to go to bed early. But you're not there at that age yet. In my mid 40s, I started to fall asleep at 9 p.m. But I don't have much of a schedule. I don't have a busy schedule, so I can do this stuff.
Like, walk me through a day of like what. I have no idea what you do all day. Like, what do you do? You've accomplished so much. So, what is your reward? What do you do all day?
I call myself retired, but I do. I have a couple homes that I have to look after, pay some bills. I have a vacation home out in the Palm Springs area. I have my parents' old house in Arizona. I have my coffee in the morning. I listen to Bill Evans, who's a jazz piano player. I go for my walk. I need to stretch more. I need to work out more. I try to eat healthy. I work on the podcast. I do the Instagram, which actually takes a little time to come up with all the creative gems. And I watch every single Minnesota Timberwolves game. We're in first place in the West.
Hey, dude, they're legit. It's hard to believe. Minnesota to me now, not to completely digress here, Minnesota to me gives me those feelings about when the Bucks started to be good, and you're like, well, they can't possibly be good. They're the Bucks. but now that's Minnesota because they're so freaking good that you're like, they can't win it. They're Minnesota. But then you go, well, the Bucks did it. Right. And so I watch League Pass, constantly. I'm not like Rosillo on League Pass, but like I love.
I can't believe you have any time to watch NBA, but the Timberwolves, what happened last year was we made this big trade for Rudy Gobert. Everyone was down on it because we gave up so many
every draft pick in the world.
Yeah. But now Rudy is playing. He's moving better. He's playing better, and we're number 1 in defense in the NBA. Cat's playing well. Ant's playing well. The other guys are playing well. Our schedule has been pretty good to us where when we did play a tough team at home like Boston and Denver, they played the night before. So it was a back-to-back. And just today, an hour ago, Chris Finch was named the Western Conference Coach of the Month. So I'm enjoying that. I also watch the Vikings, and that's been an up and down year. We lost Kirk Cousins to an Achilles. So I stay busy, and I also will write a book one day, just to go back to that. I'm not a workaholic like yourself, but when I did work, I know how much it was, the effort to do a show 5 days a week. I'd get in there. There were a lot of things, a lot of decisions to be made. And we used to say, other hosts, we'd talk and they'd say, not until 2 p.m. Saturday can you really exhale because you're still recovering on Saturday from the 5 shows during the week. You know, it was lot goes on in your brain when you're hosting a show.
Whenever you were in the meat of it, hosting the show, did you feel like constant stress? Did you know it was stress, or was it just normal because that's what you dealt with?
Yeah, it was normal. So I didn't always feel, sometimes there was stress. We wouldn't, this is not good. We wouldn't always start the show on time because we'd have these elements, the videotapes. We wouldn't get the information to the editors at the proper time. So we had to wait. Or, the writers would come up with a bit and they go, Craig, you're going to be wearing a Napoleon hat. You're going to be wearing a colonial, you're going to be wearing an air fighter ball, something. And they would have to go get that. And so, props, we'd be late giving them instructions on props. But the thing I did, which is sometimes I do this thing where one of my friends, he's a writer named Alex Sulkin. He's the head writer, executive producer of Family Guy, but he used to be a writer on The Late Late Show. And he'd do an impression of me in rehearsal. And he'd go, hey, can we have an over the shoulder that actually matches the story we're talking about, please? Okay, you know what? I give up. And that was when I would say I would give up, it was my way of exhaling. So sometimes I'm sure at some point, if it gets too stressful for you, you just got to go, okay, let's keep moving. Let's just, you might have to accept mediocrity, which is not fun at all.
Correct. I think I've gotten a little better at not taking it out on myself. I think when I was young, and something wouldn't go right, I was to blame. I'm the leader. I'm to blame. It would eat me up. Yeah. I think now I can cut my losses quicker because I think oddly that's more efficient. So I cut my losses and move on. But so you would get in, what would you get in and get out, like times right in the meat of it?
Well, I wouldn't get in too early. We were supposed to tape at 5:30. And I would get in, the latest would be 11 a.m. But if the writers would get in early, so they'd start at 9. And if I had an idea, I would call Gibby, my head writer. I say, we're going to do this for Desk Chat, or we're going to do this. And so if it was something I had to write, I would write it myself. If it was something they were going to write, then I would tell them at 9 a.m. what it was. And then we had a lot of jokes on the show. I remember once Rob Burnett from Worldwide Pants, he was Letterman's producer. He said, hey, Dave said you guys have more jokes in your show than we do, because we also had some jokes in 5 questions. We have some bump in jokes. Sometimes we'd play Yambo, which had jokes in it. But we'd tape at 5:30, get done at 6:30, not sometimes 6:45, depending upon. And then my favorite thing to do was, I might wear sweats to the show, but I put on the suit and I said, you know what? I'm taking the makeup off and I'm walking to Mastro. I'm going to drive to Mastro's. I'm walking out of the studio. I'm wearing my suit. I liked sometimes to wear my suit out to dinner afterwards. It just felt great. That's why I go out now. I have a bunch of blazers and dress shirts and stuff.
How much of the character did you grow into because it was a character you did all the time, and how much of it is real?
I'm letting Bobby ask questions. It's very smart, and he's a good interviewer. So people ask me, are you playing a character? What's real? And I used to say, well, the part that you like, the percentage that you like is really Krager's. But no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've heard that. I mean, my whole life, Bobby, I've heard that. How much of this is real? Like, there's some comedians that follow me on Instagram. They go, is he serious about the ascot? Is he serious about it, or is he joking? And I've only worn an ascot out once to dinner, and it wasn't in Los Angeles. It was up north. It was in San Luis Obispo. Nate's on Marsh. Great place. So yeah, that was fun. I wanted to ask you about back to your show, because you said the climate has changed. Do you have to tiptoe on any subjects? Because, politically out there, everyone is freaking out. Do you have to tiptoe, or are there things that you avoid on your show?
It's more like I've learned what there just is no winner at. So I would say that I talk about issues on my show because my show is very much based on my thoughts, feelings, emotions, theories. And I have a perspective of, I come from a very rural red state, very rural, very red. However, I have left that red state and moved around and had a bit of exposure to a lot of other things. So like I will talk about on my show, for example, guns.
Okay.
And way too many people are getting shot, period. Not everybody should have a gun. But that being said, I grew up with guns. Everybody had a gun as a tool. Nobody got shot where I was from because guns were taught. These are tools. We used them to hunt.
Right.
We used them for a lot of different things. And so what I will talk about this, and I will say things like, and this is where it gets a bit controversial, but controversy really follows sensibility now because both sides have screamers and anybody that's sensible has no friends. And that's really where you get jumped. But I will talk about guns and I will say, here's the thing. I grew up with guns. I grew up with a lot of guns. I have guns now. I said, I don't think everybody should have a gun. And not only that, to have a gun that is actually stronger than a 12 gauge, you should have to pass a certain test. Because if you're, when I got my CDL to drive an 18-wheeler, and when I got that license, I had to take a test. I didn't just get to jump in a big truck.
Right.
And so I will say things that I feel are sensible, like if there should be no guns sold at gun shows. You should be able to have a gun unless you prove you're an idiot. Then you should be able to get a gun, and you shouldn't be able to get a bigger gun unless you prove you can have the bigger gun. You shouldn't have body armor. Like I say stuff like that. So
do you get pushback when you say this stuff, or is it minimal?
Yes, I get pushback on anything because it's a numbers game.
Right.
You know, if you're talking to 3-4 million people through live or podcast, you're just gonna feel it. But there's pushback. But I always feel like that in the end, which is also why I can't lie because I can't remember what I say, that if I just stay consistent with how I feel, because the show is about me, authenticity is very valuable these days.
Right.
I don't say anything that would probably get me canceled, but I also grew up a white kid in a town that wasn't white. And so I have perspective of that.
Right.
And I don't have the perspective of somebody that is black, but I have the perspective of somebody that played football and we were known as the black school. And I would see what my freaking friends would go through and the things that were said to them just because they were black.
Yeah.
And so, I do talk about things, but I definitely do not talk about politics, but I'll talk about any issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, they are simply two of the most beautiful words in the English language. Omaha Steaks. It's been a love affair for me since I was 10 years old. My grandfather sent us a gift of Omaha Steaks for the holidays, and I was smitten. I've been to a lot of steakhouses, and none of the steaks there seem as tender to me as Omaha Steaks. I think it's their classic aging process, 28 days or more. They take it very seriously. Here's something fun. My friends and I will buy each other a gift of Omaha Steaks for the holidays. And then we have a roundtable discussion in my mahogany panel den. What's your favorite Omaha steak? I like ribeye, but I also like filet mignon. And what about T-bone? We argue for hours. And then young Kreger says, what about the scalloped potatoes? Yes, they have sides, wonderful sides. I just had a thought. My Minnesota Timberwolves are currently number 1 in the Western Conference, and head coach Chris Finch was just named Coach of the Month for the Western Conference. What if I send Finchy a gift of Omaha Steaks and use promo code Kilborn to save $30? I think I'm going to do that, and I can do that, and he's earned it. Omaha Steaks, it's a lifestyle. And it really makes life gorgeous. Oh, the holidays are here. Let Omaha Steaks take the guesswork out of gifting. Shop carefully curated gift packages that are guaranteed to make spirits bright all winter long. Go to omahasteaks.com and save 50% off site-wide. Plus, when you use promo code Kilborn at checkout, get an additional $30 off your order. Send tender, juicy butcher's cut filet mignons, mouth-watering burgers, gourmet jumbo franks, or even easy-to-prepare meals that are ready in a flash. With Omaha Steaks, the possibilities are endless. This offer won't last long. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away, so shop early and beat the shipping rush. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code KILLBORN at checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com. Take advantage of 50% off site-wide, plus use promo code KILLBORN at checkout to get that extra $30 off your order. Minimum order may be required. Thank you, Omaha Steaks. Life really is gorgeous. Well, yeah, so I was the issue like guns. So I've never talked about guns, but if I was asked, I would recuse myself because I've never been a gun owner. We had a BB gun when I was a kid, and my dad got it for us because he was a sharpshooter in the Army, but he would just show us how to hit the target in the basement. We'd put it across the room on the couch. We had a little paper target. We'd do that. But I don't, if I had it my way, I'd have the strictest gun laws there are, but that I'm not a hunter.
Right.
I don't, but I'm glad that I assume that it sounds like what you're saying is you're a guy that has guns, you've had guns, but you want strict gun laws is what I'm hearing.
I want there to be measures with firearms that let people who can prove that they have the ability to have a firearm to keep a firearm. I do think we should be able to have guns, but I grew up with them. It's like trucks.
Right.
It's like shovels, like that. It just wasn't a deal to us because everybody had them all the time and we needed them. I completely understand people and why they feel guns are bad because they've never had them, and you only see the romantic version of people being robbed. Romantic meaning not real. But also, like, you shouldn't be able to just get a gun. You should have to wait 48 hours. You should have to do these sensible things that everybody that should have a weapon with that much firepower. You should have to almost have a license. It's like a car. You can't just get in a car and drive a car without passing a freaking test.
Yep. Makes sense. Do you ever talk abortion?
That one doesn't get a lot of laughs, if I'm being honest. That's really not one
Wait a second. What was that comedian's name? Oh gosh. Old time comedian. I'm not going to be able to remember his name. Legend. It doesn't. Anyways, and it was years ago, and it was a show called Phil Donahue Show, and he had Chris Rock on and this old comedian from New York. And Phil goes, "So you guys talk about different things?" And Chris Rock goes, "Yeah, I talk about abortion." And the old guy goes, "Yeah, I saw a funny abortion the other day, blah, blah." Like he was just making fun of it. It's just, you reminded me of the old comedian who goes, "Yeah, I saw a really funny," like he was making fun of Chris Rock for talking about abortion. But what about like WOKE? Does that stuff come up where?
A little bit. But on the topic of abortion, I think whatever is decided, if you have a penis, you don't need to be in that conversation.
Okay.
If you have a ding dong, you don't need to be in the conversation of.
What if you have 3 ding dongs?
Oh yeah, then you're king. You're king. You win, and that's it. Woke culture is I understand the need for it, but it's a pendulum, and it's a little too pendulumy right now, where people are scared to even be creative because it's okay to mess up. But you should be able to have the liberty to go, "Oh man, I said that. I wish I wouldn't have said it, and I'm going to do better." But that's not allowed. So what it does is it actually inhibits a lot of people from trying things, doing things, and art and comedy. I'm not a big fan of it. I understand the need for it and the protections that it does hopefully give. But as a creator, I'm not a fan of it. And I think mostly like a free market will decide who's good and who's not. If a comedian's funny, they'll probably make some money. But no, I'm not a big woke culture guy.
Well, there's this entertainment website called Deadline Hollywood. It's very, very popular. And this was about, 4 or 5 months ago. And the headline was Brian Cox, the actor from Succession, is blaming woke for a lot of problems. He's blaming woke. And I read the article, and the writer in the article gave the definition of woke, which I thought was silly because the definition is being compassionate and caring about social issues was the definition he gave. And I wanted to tell the writer, Brian Cox cares about that. He's compassionate. The issue is going overboard, becoming excessively self-righteous. That's the whole thing, is people going overboard. Instead of wanting to help somebody, they shame. How dare you say that, Bobby? Shame on you. And when you start shaming people, they're not open to changing. If you say, by the way, what if you said this? You might hurt people's feelings when you say that. What if you said it this way instead? Or what if you don't say anything there? As opposed to shaming them, because everyone, you got some hotheads, which is my next subject. Okay, well, you have something to say? Go ahead.
No, I just want to say this about woke. If that is what the actual literal, not only definition, but how people interpreted it and executed woke, then great. Let's all be freaking woke.
Exactly.
But exactly. It's to the point
that's
where,
not what the word means now.
Right.
Because
Yes.
The word to me, so I don't even have to use the word. I just say, please, people, don't be excessively self-righteous and don't try to shame everybody. You know what I'm saying? Now, I did say, I wanted to say something. I wanted to ask you this. By the way, thanks for answering all these questions because I find it interesting running some of this stuff by you. So the Timberwolves a few weeks ago had this game where Draymond Green, who's a physical player and some say a dirty player and it's controversial, he'd put Rudy Gobert in a chokehold to take him away from two other people fighting or arguing, I should say. And he got suspended. But it's a thing where for years, I've had an issue with men who are what I call hotheads, and I don't have a temper. So what I do is I say something dismissive or smug, which can really bother people, but I don't raise my voice. You're boring me. You're not talented. Get away from me. Blah, blah, blah. So do you have to deal with, or I'm sure you have in your life, people that are hotheads, and how do you handle it? And you ever get in a fight when you were growing up?
First of all, the headlock was kind of out of nowhere. That was just that was a really bizarre headlock.
It was very bizarre. He wouldn't let go.
Just right, yeah. It was, and I like Draymond Green and listen to his podcast a little bit. But yeah, he can go. And he's also too old to be that hot of a head anymore. Like you're 26, okay. Draymond's like 61 now, dude. We get it. Like everybody respects you. You don't have to prove it. You got rings. But yeah, that was not the best look. I don't really associate with a lot of hotheads. I'm not one. My wife and my therapist will say, hey, you need to have more emotion sometimes. I kind of stay never too high, never too low.
That's good. That's
always been like a protection, like a shell. Can't get hurt if you don't know what hurt is. And so I don't have a temper at all. And I don't really have any tempered friends because I just will not be around that energy.
Yes.
I'm not even an energy guy really,
right.
But I just get annoyed with people who have short fuses because really nothing is that serious.
Yeah, I agree. And I call it bad energy, but I also have other friends that don't have, they're hotheads, but they have bad energy, negative energy, and I avoid them as well. But so on your show, you've never had a guest or you've never had a call. I don't know if you take calls, but you never had anybody who's been out of control, angry, like, come on, Bobby, let me have my gun, man. Who the hell are you?
Great question. So this is what happened. And there's a few of those because like you, I just ask questions if I'm curious. Sometimes people will not like that. There's never any malicious intent because I wouldn't have you on the show to kind of screw you over. I literally wouldn't. Sometimes people don't like my curiosity. But once Wendy Williams was on my show and she was talking about something that she was promoting. She was in town for something. And that's, I get the trade in. Like you come in, you get to promote your thing, but I want to ask you some questions. And she had written a book. In her book, she had talked about Tupac. And so if she writes it in a book and we got all of her promo out, I feel like it's open to talk about because she's talked about it. So I asked her the question about Tupac and she pauses and she looks at me and she goes, you will never be me. Like this is all live. And I then realized, this is going to be a moment. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not scared of moments. I love awkward.
Right.
I love awkward. And I was like, excuse me. I just wanted her to say it again. She goes, you will never be me. And I'm like, wait, I don't want to be you. Like I'm not trying to hawk pans at the mall. Like I got other goals.
Did you say that?
Yes. Okay. And so she gets so mad, barges out of the studio. Now, You would think that would be it, and that'd be the end of the great story. But no, her husband at the time was waiting to beat me up outside the building. He just kept walking back and forth, waiting for me to come out. And I was scared. I don't want to get beat up. He would have whooped me for sure. But I didn't go out. But that was one of those instances of I didn't even do anything. I've said stupid stuff where people should get mad. I did nothing but ask a question, but that got pretty, it escalated quickly on the air, and it could have ended a lot worse if I really cared.
Did you, when you said hawk pans at the mall, was that what set her off?
She was already set off because she wouldn't have come to me and said, "You'll never be me."
Right.
I think that's what made her leave the room.
Right.
And so
yeah.
After she said it twice, I was a little insulted. I got a little wit. So I was like, how do I do this without looking like a dick?
Right.
Only a slight dick, which is my nickname in college too. And so I was like, yeah, so and then she left, and then he was going to beat me up.
Oh, wow. That's great. On a really positive note, Bobby, I wanted to tell you for my the Life Gorgeous for the month of December, the holidays, is sponsored by Omaha Steaks. And I've been cooking steaks. Do you, have you ever heard of Omaha Steaks? Of course you have.
We eat Omaha Steaks. I freaking love Omaha Steaks.
I can, if you want, later when you get off the air, if you want to email me your address, I can send you a Lord Kilby special Omaha Steaks package, but it means you or your wife will have to cook some steaks. And I know how to cook steaks. If you want some.
I do want some. And yes, and here's the thing. I've only been rich a few years, like what I would consider rich.
Right.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I like it. And a lot of the rich parts are really neat, right?
Right.
But one of the things about being rich is sometimes you get like fancy stuff that you don't know how to work. We have this grill, and I've spent like the last 4 months figuring out how to work this grill. Like how I grilled, we had like a green egg, and you put the coals down.
Oh yeah, the green egg is great.
Yeah, let's go. Or we do it like in the woods over rocks.
Yeah. But
this grill is so freaking fancy that it's actually harder to cook. One day I'm going to figure it out, but I think I've ruined a few Omaha Steaks. So I'm owed a few free ones just by the nature. Right. So I will gladly take those.
Oh, great. So just to let you know, I pick my spots when I have red meat. I eat a lot of salmon. I eat a lot of chicken. I do like pork chops. And by the way, Omaha Steaks has all that stuff. But I pick my spots with the ribeye or the filet mignon or the T-bone. But when they sent me the packages and I started cooking, I got serious and I cooked it inside. This is what I did. They have this round filet mignon, beef tenderloin, sear it 2 minutes in a cast iron pot, cast iron pan, sear it on each side 2 minutes in the butter, salt and pepper, in the oven at 400, about 7 minutes, depending upon if you want 6 minutes, if you want medium rare, then you go medium. I sometimes will go medium, a little healthier that way. But I don't, so I wouldn't really know how to do it on a grill. I could guess, and then we'd just keep looking and flipping. But I do it, it's an art form. If you do it, sear it on the stovetop for 2 minutes on each side, and then 7 minutes at 400 in the oven, you're golden.
I just had a meat scientist, true story, on my show. And we were talking about, because there was an article about, and I'm a massive Omaha Steaks fan. I've ordered them, and I will get like the little sides too, like potatoes.
Okay. I just got the scallops.
It's the greatest.
And then I don't have a sweet tooth, but they threw them in there, and Princess Cherry went crazy. Caramel apple tartlets. They're apple tarts, but they called them tartlets. Oh my Lord.
And that's how you know I'm not lying, because I can identify the sides that you can get. It's the greatest. So yeah. I totally subscribe, and I'm going to absolutely go, hey, I'll take those steaks. So don't be like, that was a bit. So
no, this is real. They're fired up. They like Bobby Bones at Omaha Steaks.
Thank you. We had a meat scientist on today or the day before yesterday. And so we were talking to him because there was a story about how to make the perfect steak if it's the meat comes frozen. And the story was you put it in the microwave for 2 minutes and heat it from the inside out, because that's what the microwave does. And this was like being spread. It was being shared so I got a meat scientist on the phone. What do? Go right to the freaking source. Called him up. He's a professor at Tarleton State. And I said, what's up?
What's the name of the college? What was the name of the college?
Tarleton State University.
Okay.
And He was like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Do not do that. And so I want everybody to know, if you get your Omaha Steaks and you've read on the internet to put it in the microwave, I talked to a meat scientist, a professor at Tarleton State University.
Yeah.
Do not do that.
Terrible.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun. I sometimes I'll make mashed potatoes myself at home and then make the asparagus, or I'll get their sides. And I haven't even tried all their sides, but the ones scalloped potatoes are fun.
Do people come to your house?
I'm sorry. It's just a random question. If I invite them over, this is usually Princess Cherry and I in the dining room, and I'll play a little music. We'll have a little red wine, but I'll cook. And when I cook steaks, I take it seriously. This is not like using the slow cooker that I use to make chili or something. This is intense. I don't want to screw up. I don't want a dry steak. You know what I'm saying? They age in 28 days.
You'll cook for friends. People will come to, because the only thing we see of your house, honestly, is like the back when you do the podcast, the red.
Yeah.
And so we don't really know what's up. Like what's Krager's house like?
Well, it's a 1923 house. I have shown the fireplace before on Instagram. I've shown the ceiling in the light, which is a great light in the dining room. So to answer your question, I've had people over here before. I don't do it all the time. I go to a local watering hole with my buddies sometimes, and we chat, we listen to music, etc. But I in the old days, at my old house in the hills, I would make cioppino, which is a very advanced fish stew. I would make that sometimes. But I have people over. If you're in town, you can come over.
This is a bit. And because first of all, I never want to bother anybody. Right. I feel like I burden every single person I ever come into contact with. So I would never be like, Craig, can I come over? But I also feel like as soon as we hung up, you get off and be like, yeah, there's no Omaha Steaks and don't come to my house, loser. Like that's what I feel like this would turn into.
No, there really are Omaha Steaks. This will be the third one that's sponsored by Omaha Steaks. Yeah. This is gonna be exciting. Yeah, you're gonna send me an address, whatever. It could be a PO box, whatever you want, and then you're gonna get a really nice gift basket from Omaha Steaks. Do you want anything besides steaks and sides? Do you want any fish or chicken?
Fish. I'm not a big fish guy. Okay. Maybe a little chicken. My wife loves chicken. She does, and I try to.
They have chicken cordon bleu, which is
I try to sparse out my red meat as well. As I try, but man, Omaha Steaks freaking rocks. Okay, so here's the thing. Let me have 5 minutes of asking a few questions that I'm just dying to know.
And then we're going to do the Life Gorgeous.
We'll do whatever you want.
Finish up, okay?
I got all day for you. Okay. So I want to say it was very kind of you. I was filling in for Rich Eisen. You came up and I just kind of threw a shot in the dark, and I felt weird asking you, and but I was like, will you come up and be a guest? And you did, and you were awesome. And for people that listen to this and you're like, is Craig really friendly? Yeah. And I wondered the same thing because I've done this with you before, but you couldn't have been kinder. You couldn't have been more generous with your time and answers. And so I'll move off of this, but I really appreciated that. That meant a lot.
Thanks for the invite. It was very nice of you.
So question one, did you know Dave? And because I know, you guys, Worldwide Pants, what was that relationship like? Because again, when it comes to like my heroes, Letterman's like the one guy I've never met. So I just wonder what that dude's like.
Well, that's a good question. And I've heard it before. And you have to realize that a lot of us older than you, Jon Stewart, Conan O'Brien, Jimmy Kimmel, we worshiped Dave.
Same.
When he hosted the Oscars, I got emotional. That's our guy. He was bigger than the Oscars for us. That's my guy. I used to stay up late and watch him, obviously, and I'd make my dad stay up late. Johnny was on before Johnny Carson, then Dave was on. I got to tell you something. People don't remember this. Dave was on at 12:30 after Johnny, and he was so dynamic and so different and irreverent that NBC once a year they would give him a primetime special.
I remember watching it like in a theater. Yeah, big theater.
Yeah, and he'd do all this stuff. I was like, oh my God. So I a huge Letterman fan. When I was at ESPN, Keith Olbermann, we worship Letterman. And Keith said, he had to go down to New York City for some reason from Bristol, Connecticut, where ESPN was. And he had to do something at NBC. And he came back and said Letterman was shooting a remote in the lobby at 30 Rockefeller. And we were all, oh my God, did you talk to him? And he said, yeah. He goes, he was smoking a cigar in the lobby. And he goes, hey, Keith. And that was that. But it was just the fact. So we worshiped Dave. Now, you fast forward, I'm good at separating the host from the production company. I had some interactions with him knowing that he's busy and he's reserved and he's private. So I just enjoyed the few conversations we had. And then I had the guy that I talked to was a guy named Rob Burnett. He was the executive producer of the show and then became the CEO of Worldwide Pants. So I didn't have much interaction with Dave. He was busy competing with Leno, but he called me at the beginning when I was working and said, good job. He was proud of me at the beginning when we had a lot of, I'd come out once a year and do a show, and he came backstage and shook my hand, and Biff Henderson said, that's a big deal. So, but of course, Bobby, if I'm being honest, I threw those people off when I left. I threw Rob Burnett off and my old agent and everything. I just didn't want to do it anymore for a lot of different reasons. One is, well, creatively is number one, because I had this other sensibility that it wasn't being fulfilled late night, but also too much politics, too much social commentary. And there's another thing. You had to tiptoe with the guests. And other guys are better at tiptoeing with the guests. You know what I'm saying? Like Wendy Williams, if she said that to me, I'm not sure what I would say. You know what I'm saying?
You'd have probably said something similar or worse.
Something worse, Bobby. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Because Letterman's that's like my number one, right? Like that's the dude that I would see he's from Indiana.
Right.
I was always goofy growing up, like looking, and I was like, well, if he can do it, maybe I have a shot. Like that was the dude. That's like the one person I haven't met. And I don't even know if I want to meet him, because I just have this, again, I use the word romantic, this romantic version of who that is. He didn't even have to be nice. Right. It's like, if I met Eminem and he was nice to me, I'd probably be disappointed. So with Letterman, I feel like I know who he is, and that's pretty cool. So I just wondered what your run-in was there. Question 2 of 3. I feel like I would be pretty good friends, and I never met this guy either, but I feel like I'd be pretty good friends with Ryan Russillo. And I brought him up earlier. Would I be friends with him?
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting guy. I've told people I can't fully figure him out, but that's okay because I don't have to figure him out. But he's very positive about Craigers. He's a fan. He's nice. He's a friend. He's nice to me. I don't know if you know, one of our running jokes is, and I don't know what it is, but he doesn't always like to wear shirts. So he invited me down. He lives in Manhattan Beach, which he lets people know. A lot of people live down in Manhattan Beach. Steve Nash, Mark Cuban has a place, et cetera, Kevin Durant, et cetera. And I got to his house and he came out and told me where to park, and he wasn't wearing a shirt. And I'm like, you got to put a shirt on or I'm not coming in, man, So, but yeah, he's a great guy, and you would like him.
The ultimate dinner trio, me, you, Russillo.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're supposed to have dinner, and we can decide if we're going to have it in Manhattan Beach or in Hollywood, because there are places to have it at. That would be great.
Final question.
Yes, sir.
And then we can get back on your schedule with what you have. So with going to Minnesota and going to those games, do you have to pay for seats ever, or do they just say, you know what, you're our dude, you've always been repping, you're from here, take these courtside seats?
Great question, because I have an answer that I want people to understand. Bobby, I have never, ever, ever paid for an NBA ticket at an NBA arena. Okay. Okay. Now wait, but there's more to it than that. I'm not, I know it sounds like I'm bragging, but I would not pay for an NBA ticket. However, I would pay, League Pass is maybe, I don't know what it is, $300. If it was $2,000, I'd pay for League Pass. I have to have League Pass. I have to have it. But I've never paid for an NBA ticket. I don't want to, they're too expensive. I don't want to pay for parking and all this kind of stuff. So I have a friend named Charlie Swanson in Minnesota that gives me courtside seats. A-Rod has said, we got courtsides for you, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, they treat me well. And I've never paid for an NBA ticket in my life, thank God. But I will pay for, I don't want Adam Silver to hear this and raise the price on League Pass, but I would pay more for League Pass because I have to have it. And I prefer watching at home anyways, because I don't have to fight the traffic and, the lines to hit the John when I need to powder my nose in the mirror and everything,
Same. Okay, I'm done. Thank you for humoring me with my questions.
Those are good questions. And real curious. And by the way, Dave would be proud because Letterman's very curious. That's one of the things. He's curious about guests. I could really care less. Wendy. Oh, I could tell you stories. Oh,
I know.
No, there was one. I'll tell you off air one day. When we have dinner, I'll tell you about a couple people. We did some obese jokes about some celebrities. Then we stopped. And I remember Conan saying, yeah, she called me too. Then we stopped the obese jokes, the fat jokes.
I've had people's moms call me before, mad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We did too many celebrity jokes when I was doing late night. Let's see. What's your NFL team? Do I know?
No, my every team is. I grew up in Arkansas, so we didn't have really an NFL team. Everybody was a Cowboys fan. I wasn't. So are the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I live in Nashville, so the Titans a bit, just because I know a lot of the people and players, but I don't really have one. I was a big Boomer Esiason fan growing up with Cincinnati because he was a left-handed quarterback like myself. So that's a big deal. But I didn't have a team that was close. So I do not have an NFL team.
Like, who would you root for in the Super Bowl this year if you had your choice?
It's a good question. I have a future on Baltimore, so I think I'd probably I bet a significant. I think I bet $1,000 on them at the beginning of the season. So I think I'll probably pull for Baltimore. I have that future, and then I have a future on maybe San Francisco. But I'd probably pick Baltimore. It's going to pay the best.
I like the Niners. I think they're good.
They're fully like against the Eagles. Yeah. When they have Debo and McCaffrey both in the backfield, what are you supposed to do?
We beat them at home with Kirk this year. It was the best game we played. Debo didn't play.
They weren't full. They weren't full up then.
No, but McCaffrey played, but he was hurt. But he played. I like Mahomes. I like watching him play. I was born in Kansas City. I would take Kansas City against the Niners if I had a choice.
That'd be fun.
Okay, we're going to finish up. We only have a couple here. This is the Life Gorgeous quiz. Simple questions, profound insights. This is interesting. Can you name 3 other famous Bobbies?
Yeah, Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Bobby Brown, and Bobby Brown, the makeup Bobby Brown. Does that count if it's 2 B-O-B-B-Y, B-O-B-B-I?
Yeah, no, it does. You've obviously heard this question before. You've thought about it.
No one's ever asked that. But Bobby McFerrin, did the Cosby Show theme. And so I always felt bad for those Cosby Show actors because that show was running. They're making the residuals. Yeah. And then freaking Bill Cosby's the worst dude ever. And they suffered. They didn't get their residual checks because the show got canceled.
Right. I thought you might say Ricky Bobby. That's fictitious. There was a guy named Bobby Bell I liked as a kid, but he played for the Kansas City Chiefs in the late 60s. Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bowden.
Yeah, coach. Florida State.
Yeah. Childhood sports hero.
Mark Grace. And not only that, Mark Grace, I was doing stand-up. One of my best friends is Andy Roddick, the tennis player.
I know Andy. He used to do the show. I haven't talked to him since but he was great. He was a great guest.
He's awesome. He's obnoxious. He's awesome. He's like, he was a groomsman on my wedding. So that's like one of my best friends. And he's like, hey, will you come and do this charity deal for me? And I go and he goes, hey, you need to watch your introduction. And I'm like, all right, cool. And so I walk out, and this is 3,000 or 4,000 people. And I'm going to go out and tell some jokes. And Mark Grace pops up on the screen. And Andy got Mark Grace to do an intro for me. Mark Grace, number 17, left-handed first baseman, Chicago Cubs, Mr. Slump Buster. That was my dude. And so it's still, I've never met Mark Grace either, but Mark Grace will be my dude.
Was that your favorite sport growing up, baseball?
Oh, yeah. Baseball by far. And the Cubs I watched, if there are 162 games, I probably watched 158 of them.
Wow. 2 more questions. Rank your preference of these 3 people. Elvis, Sinatra, Taylor Swift.
Look, here's the thing. It's a conversation at dinner.
Was something going on here? Is there a Taylor Swift story here that I don't know about, or what? Did you date Taylor Swift or what?
No, and I love all the Swifties. I love Taylor Swift. Everything is A plus. Love some Taylor. So put that in the notes, though. We'll get into that too. Wendy Williams. There's a lot. I'm gonna go. Sinatra, to me, as great as the songs are, and they have even transcended in different ways. In Arkansas, people just didn't care about Frank Sinatra that much.
I know that. That's why I threw it in there just to see I just wanted to see.
I'm going to put him third.
Okay.
And here's the thing about Elvis. Elvis, Mississippi kid, some people think he's from Memphis. Guess where Graceland is. Elvis was very derivative of a lot of the, and stole. Also derivative and stole a lot of music from a lot of the black artists that were current and before his time. I think Colonel Tom Parker, not the best dude. I think Elvis had pretty good intentions, but I can't fully get on the Elvis wagon in this. So I'm going to put Elvis at 2. And because I just don't want the blowback, I'm going Taylor Swift at 1.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. That was good. Hey, when I asked it and you paused, I thought I struck a nerve. Let me open it. I got to tell you.
Everything's great. Everything can be better.
The third one is not controversial too much, but it's a food question. And I've been asking it a while, and I enjoy it because Craigers doesn't eat a lot of carbs. So this is a treat for me. And I've always loved sandwiches. Top 3 sandwiches of all time for Bobby Bones.
I like probably just because it reminds me of childhood. I like a fried bologna sandwich at number 3. My grandma would make them on white bread.
I'm not laughing. I just remember hearing fried bologna, and we had bologna as a kid too. And fried is great. So that's
fried
fun.
Bologna, white bread with mustard. So that's coming in at number 3. My number 2 sandwich, and this is pretty controversial because some people don't consider it a sandwich, but it's definitely a sandwich. It's a hot dog. There's the bread.
Not a sandwich. It's bologna.
I feel like it's a sandwich. So it's my list. So I'm going to put a hot dog at number 2, but only with mustard. That's it. As you can see, there's a big mustard.
I adore mustard, and I used to have Coney Islands, and you'd put mustard on there with chopped raw onions.
I don't do onions. No onions. And then my number 1 sandwich, I do like a BLT.
Those are good. I do like a white bread toasted, bacon, almost no lettuce. Lettuce is kind of useless, but I'll take it just for the LT. And I do like a little tomato, and I like mustard. So you do that, boom. Those are my top 3 sandwiches. Very good. I like it because I always surprise people because I don't give them any time to think. They just have to do it on the spot. I'll quickly tell you mine just to get your reaction. Have you ever heard of a Reuben sandwich?
Absolutely.
I love Reubens, either on pumpernickel or rye, either corned beef or pastrami. I love sauerkraut. Love it. Love it. Love it. One cold sandwich. I like chicken salad. I like it with grapes, walnuts. I like it with red onions on top with the cheddar cheese. I like toasted rye. Craigers likes toasted rye. And the third one is controversial. Some people don't like it, including Ryan Russillo. Tuna melt.
No opinion.
Okay.
I have opinions on everything, but I don't have a bad one. You went tuna salad and tuna melt. It's just very tuna-y.
Yeah. Tuna melt with cheese is great. Yeah. I used to have my third one used to be grilled cheese sandwich, but that
was probably number 4 for me if we went 4.
Yeah. Hey, Bobby. Thanks, brother.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's chop it up. When you got something to talk about, let me know.
Yeah. We'll be in touch. I'm going to stay right where you are. I'm going to say goodbye to you and the audience, then we'll get that address. We'll get those Omaha Steaks out to you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Bobby Bones. What a nice young man answering all the questions. We'll see you next time. And remember, young people, I'm proud of you.